Tēnā koutou. Tēnā tātou e whakawhāiti nei I runga I tēnei kaupapa, tēnei kaupapa a tāhua, te whakatō, te mātauranga ki roto I ngā tamariki mokopuna katoa. Kei ngā pūmanawa o te aroa, tēnā koutou e manaaki nei a tātou I tēnei ahi. Kei te mōhio hau, āhua tere tēnei tere wahanga, no reira kau e pāpauri mai kia au, engari ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Huri no I tō tātou whare, tēnā koutou kia ora tātou katoa. Thank you very much for facilitating the speediest entry to the podium that I've ever had. Louise, to you, to Judith, Paul, koutou katoa. Ngā mema Māori hoki. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. This is going to be a bit of a hit and run. I've come down from the Aero conference this morning, the packed symposia this afternoon to be here. There was a bit of a glitch in my office because at the time I was invited to attend the conference, it was expected that I would be in China at the China-New Zealand partnership in the focus on education. But because I'm also going to Finland in 2 weeks to speak at their Helsinki conference, my office and I had decided that I couldn't be away for both visits. And so in withdrawing from China, we didn't reactivate the NZEI invitation. And so I apologise for that, but thank you for carving out time so that I could be here. I just want to quickly address something on the Twitter feed from this conference, which is that this is the first time I've bothered to come to your conference since 2012. Could I point out that it's not my right to attend your conference? I come at the invitation of your president and your conference. And every time I've been invited, I have come. Ka pai? Koena te kōrero. So I am very happy to be here and to take the opportunity to thank you all. To thank you for the contribution that you make in classrooms and schools to children, their parents, family, whānau and ainga up and down the country. Thank you for the dedication that you show to this wonderful enterprise, as I said in Te Reo Māori at the beginning, of instilling a great education in each and every one of our children. No matter what background they come from, no matter what community you're in, no matter what level of learning they're at, thank you for all the work that you do. Now, it is clear in a democracy as active as New Zealand's is that we will not always agree on everything. Within families, we don't agree on everything. Within sectors, certainly that isn't going to be the case, or indeed the nation as a whole. But that we should have the opportunity to debate issues, that we should be able to question each other, that we hold each other to account, that's totally appropriate. And I'm very happy to be held to account. So I'm pleased to be here this afternoon, a kanohi, a tinana, to have this short opportunity to share some of the updates on the issues that I am involved with and leading at the moment. I had hoped to be able to take questions, but I think that'll have to be saved for another time. I'm really pleased in terms of the joint initiative because I know many of you have been involved in that for quite some time. And it's a process where we've learnt from each other's points of view, and where your president and executive have faithfully represented your interests and concerns. But in the end, it is a negotiation, and we arrive at a place where each of us compromise, and it isn't necessarily perfect from everyone's point of view, but I am nevertheless delighted, and I acknowledge and thank you all for the vote that you cast last week, agreeing to the proposal and the joint initiative. And this means, of course, that communities of schools, this model will now change as a result of that negotiation to extend to incorporate early childhood at the early years and, of course, connections to whatever the next tertiary step of young people will be, whether that's into a trade apprenticeship, onto further training, onto university, into employment. This is about a whole of pathway for our young people, from our earliest learners to young adults. So thank you very much for your vote, and I look forward to our forming more communities of learning as a result. Now, I'm aware that a number of you are concerned about early childhood education provision, and I want to answer some of the issues that have been raised in the letters that your organisation has encouraged members to send to me, to the Deputy Prime Minister, to the Secretary of Education. Because we all know that regular participation in early learning, whether teacher-led and centre-based or parent-led and home-based, has an exponentially positive effect on the learning journey of our youngest learners. And that's why our government has prioritised its investment into early learning. We have an ambitious target that 98% of the new entrants in 2016 will have participated in good quality early learning. We're currently at 96.1%. We do have some way to go, and then of course it has to be sustainable. I'd like to take the opportunity to address the funding issue. Funding for early childhood is now $1.6 billion. When we came into government, it was $780 million. It has nearly doubled in the time that we have been in government. In last budget, in June this year, we announced that an additional $74.9 million over the next 4 years would be invested in ECE services so that more children can attend for more hours. And from April next year, the government will increase childcare assistance rates for lower income families at a cost of approximately $104 million over the next 4 years. And that means around 41,000 families and 49,000 children will benefit from this change each year. Funding subsidies, including 20 hours ECE, enable all families to access ECE for children aged 3 and over. Currently, ECE is 32% more affordable than before 20 hours ECE was included, and the level of affordability has been maintained over the last 7 years. Overall, for every $1 that a family pays for ECE, the government provides $4.80. Internationally, New Zealand is in the top 3 countries for ECE teacher qualifications and for the ratio of ECE staff to children. We ensure that ECE services are providing quality. We can all agree or disagree on what level of quality, what it looks like, how we should be assured that it is present, and that's work that we do need to continue to join with you on. At any one time, 99% of services are meeting or exceeding regulated standards, and the power to intervene is used by the Ministry if there are concerns. We have a world-leading ECE curriculum, Te Whāriki, being delivered to over 200,000 children. And I'd like to thank all of you for your contribution, those of you directly in the early childhood sector, and those of you most closely connected as new entrant teachers. You'll know that in November last year, I established an advisory group on early learning. That arose out of a work stream from my National Cross-Sector Forum, the Continuity of Early Learning work stream, that recommended this advisory group should be set up and that its terms of reference should look at strengthening the connection between Te Whāriki and New Zealand curriculum, Te Whāriki and Te Marautanga o Aotearoa. That advisory group reported at the end of June, and you can look out for its full report and recommendations on the Education Count's website in the next week or two. What that working group focused on was what's necessary for 0 to 8-year-olds, not simply 0 to 5 or 0 to 6-year-olds. And I'm particularly pleased and therefore applaud you again for expanding the model to explicitly include the early learning contribution. I just want to give you a quick update on where we're at with special education. Many of you will know that the Ministry has been conducting workshops and forums up and down the country to meet with providers, schools, parents and kids themselves to understand how we can improve the provision of special education. We spend approximately $600 million a year on targeted special ed. But all of you, or many of you, will know that there are wrinkles, misalignments, tardiness, poor focus and targeting, and we want to improve that so that the kids who need this support get it in a timely fashion. And so the Ministry, I expect to get a report from them in the next week or two on where that piece of work is at. Just moving quickly through these notes. Professional learning and development. Thanks to the NZEI for your representation at and participation in the advisory group that worked through all of last year and provided a report on what they thought should happen with PLD. You will know that I announced on Wednesday last week that we have committed to a 3-year transition and I hope transformation in the way that PLD is designed, delivered and the impact that it has. We will be moving to an evidence-based approach drawn from the data, information and research of what is and isn't working and what are the learning challenges across our schools to a set of national priorities. Those national priorities will be in place for 3 to 5 years. The first 5 national priorities are maths, science, reading, writing and digital fluency, and we will be running a pilot on health and physical education. The current providers' contracts have been extended to the end of 2016, but we will be looking to work much more with subject associations, with gifted pathways, with those who are already developing and with whom on whom we already rely, but we will be giving them a greater emphasis and a greater profile. It is my expectation that by 2017 we will make a decision as to whether that PLD function then transfers to the Education Council of Aotearoa New Zealand. You will know that it is charged by law to raise the status of the profession, to look at career pathways for teaching and learning, to improve initial teacher education, and so it makes sense that one of the key levers to achieve much of that, which is professional learning and development, that is at their deployment. Last year we spent just under 80 million on professional learning and development. What the advisory group told us is it's quite hard to see what effect that investment is having. And as taxpayers, you should be concerned that $79 million is not quite having the impact that we would all like it to have. We've also said in the targeting of PLD, again driven by the evidence, that we will focus where we think the resource needs to go the most. So in this context, communities of learning will be prioritised. In addition, 2 main regions, this is not to the exclusion of others, but 2 main regions of persistent underachievement will also be targeted. They are Northland and the Gisborne East Coast region. Evidence will drive this investment, and that's why data and knowledge from your areas will be critical. The Education Act is a dinosaur. It dates from 1989. It speaks hardly at all of students, let alone of teaching and learning quality. It is 26 years old this year. It does not fit the demands of 21st century education. Indeed, in a forensic analysis of the Act, there are provisions from 1867 that have been brought forward into this Act. It's very black and white. It's very difficult to intervene early in a school that is having troubles to help it strengthen and be successful. It's either you're putting in a statutory intervention or a commissioner, or it's falling over. there does need to be more graduated responses to help schools be successful through difficult and challenging periods. Those aren't the only things, but I do expect that we'll have a discussion document out for consultation and feedback before the end of the year. It is the beginning of the process, not the end of it. We also are in the process of looking at our funding system. You know that I have been long on record that I think the decile funding system is well-intentioned, but is a blunt instrument. It is intended that we should target those who need extra support. It was never intended that it should be a stigma for the lower end of the decile continuum and a brand for the upper end. It was intended to help schools with more who needed more and less for schools who needed less. So that work is still at a very preliminary stage, and again, I expect that we will work with your President and others as we start to develop our thinking around what better funding provision might be for education. Okay, that's it, my 17-page speech delivered in 12 minutes, I hope. I'm not sure that we can take any questions. In fact, I'm pretty sure we can't. Can we? No. Okay. Well, feel free, as some of you already have, to tweet. Feel free to friend me on Facebook and leave me messages. Feel free to send me letters and emails. We have instituted a protocol because it would be helpful and mutually respectful that if you do want to have an email campaign, that you provide an address to which we can respond. Ka pai? Good. All right, I will end where I began. Tēnā koutou. Thank you very much for all the work that you do. You may know that at Te Akatea, as a result of advocacy from the primary school sector, that there should be an appointment of a national coordinator around Māori achievement. We've agreed to that. That appointment will be made. Thank you for the lift we're seeing in Māori and Pacifica. Actually, we want to see that lift across the system. I've made that clear to Ero at this morning's meeting. Their conference theme is Catalysts for Change. So I want that catalysing going on for continuous improvement. I went to the PACT Symposium where 220 people trailblazing with this tool are looking at what its strengths and weaknesses are and how it can support them. I would like to see PACT in every school over time for the purpose of deepening and enriching the progressions in the New Zealand curriculum, for the purpose of consistent moderation between and amongst all of you professionals, and for the purpose of reducing workload by moving to a digital platform for some parts of your work. Others still need to be addressed, but that is what this tool can and will do for those who wish to wield it in your professional toolkit. Kia ora tātou katoa.